We have now reached the end of 2025, so I figured we could do a little compilation episode of some of my favorite moments from all the episodes I recorded back this last year, so we're going to get to this on the next edition of the Wandering Yuki Cheese Cafe. Happy New Year! Easygoing early afternoon coffee. It's such a beautiful thing. So everyone, welcome to another edition of the Wandering Yuki Cheese Cafe. So when this episode drops, it is going to be on December 31st, 2025, which is going to be my very last episode of the year before we move on to a brand new year. As I always say, the passage of time feels crazy because I feel like it was only yesterday when I was just starting a new year worth of videos and doing a new intro. Which reminds me, I should probably start compiling the one for the next season, so to speak. So I looked back and I did quite a bit. We looked at some brand new areas of Montreal, checked out another mall or two, tried out a few other recipes, and of course, did some of the basic stuff that I always cover on the channel. And one thing I like to do on occasion is, kind of like when I did episode 200, I was looking at 12 episodes in the life of the Wandering Yuki, which if you want to see, then I'll put a card in the top right corner. You can watch that one, where I looked at a little history of those 200 episodes where I thought, let's do a retrospective of what was going on over those years since I started the channel. And I thought I could do a similar concept today, like do 12 episodes of some of my favorite moments from when I was recording this past year. It's going to be some good recipes, good travels around the city, and also some brand new stuff explored. And we're going to show this and a little bit more. But before we do that, here's my suggestion for you. Click that subscribe button below and put the notification bell to on, because that way, if there's a brand new video to view, you're going to get a pop-up on your phone. And at the same time, like this video, because the more likes I get, the more comments I get, that promotes all those videos across the YouTube algorithm, so it helps me out a lot more than you realize. And considering the fact that I'm now over 400 subscribers, I want to keep that momentum going. Now, where can I begin? Oh, good Lord. Well, I guess I could start off with the classic cooking episode. As I always mention, anytime that I look back at the beginning of the channel, because it was timed with the pandemic, I was mostly around home, and I just use that as a platform to show off some of my recipes, things I know how to cook, and kind of keep everybody entertained while we're all kind of locked up, for lack of a better term. But I've always tried to maintain that, even though my bread and butter now is wandering the streets of Montreal in search of cafes, bars, and restaurants. But this one was like classic for me. Excuse me. Because pizza's been one of my favorite meals to make at home, just because I realized that the dough, if you want sauce, all those things are very easy to do from scratch. And I always like to find new variations that I can go about with it. Like this one was a smoked salmon pizza with some spinach, artichoke, and so forth. Sun-dried tomatoes I'm starting to like too, but I can get to that in another episode. But of course, because it's a cheese cafe, it means I can't do a cooking episode at home without going for some silly antics. And that's kind of what happened is I found a beer, looked like I saw a disco ball in there, and next thing I know, I want to use the Bee Gees as my soundtrack. That sometimes happens. I come up with a music or sometimes a gag just by what I encounter in my travels. Of course, the wanders around the city of Montreal are going to be continuing. And as I always say, one thing I try to do now is to be a bit more cognizant of trying to explore some new areas I don't necessarily document as much on my channel. So one of those areas was the Saint-Henri, Little Burgundy neighborhoods of Montreal, with a bit of Point St. Charles for good measure there, because I realized that, especially if you had to go around Notre Dame Street West, there's a nice stretch of cafes, bars, restaurants you could try out. And one of them I was told I got to try out a while ago was Liverpool House, which is I think the sister restaurant of Joe Beef. Very similar. It had a really good onglet steak that was sliced up into little pieces as opposed to a full steak, which until that day I didn't realize was a thing if you're going to be ordering steak. Great fries. Sometimes you find some good private imports or good local beers, and lets you try out something brand new. Which also means that it was a good reason to go revisit Point St. Charles once again, to check that out, find a coffee, go to the Atwater Market, and of course go to Burgundy Lion, which is actually right across the street from Liverpool House. Great British pub, excellent whiskey selection if ever you want to stop off over there. Yeah. Depending on who you ask, you're almost required to get a scotch if you walk into Burgundy Lion, but I didn't want to do that day. I want to save room for the meal. That's not to say that if I'm going to be doing new areas of Montreal that I'm not going to revisit some familiar territory, because one thing I've repeatedly mentioned too is that despite my explorations, I'm always going to associate the island of Montreal with the East End, just because that's what I knew about growing up. So I'm talking like Rosemont, La Petite Patrie, Saint Leonard, Anjou, maybe even Hochelaga, Maisonneuve, give or take, because that was always used as a mode of transport when I was visiting grandparents and, you know, just visiting the Ukrainian community up in Rosemont. And this was actually one thing I'd wanted to document too, that kind of became a running theme over the year, was going along Bélanger Street to go from Saint Leonard into other parts of Rosemont. New Rosemont has a lot of standalone homes compared to old Rosemont that has those typical stacked row houses. And it was kind of a way for me to talk about me going around there and my own memories of going along Bélanger, because my grandparents used to live in Saint Leonard, and we did a lot of trips with my dad by car, and over time did other visits to one of my mom's friends' places. I don't know if that grammatically makes sense, but you know what I mean. My mom's friend used to live around there. We all used to gather around, and even in later years, I would travel around like Jean Talon Street East to find the cannoli places. Of course, because that's in Saint Leonard, you're not going to find a shortage of them. You have one that you want to visit, but you're not sure of it, go across the street. There's plenty more.
Give me a ticket for an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a fast train. Lonely days are gone, I'm a-going home. My baby just wrote me a letter. I don't care how much money I gotta spend. Got to get back to my baby again. Lonely days are gone, I'm a-going home. My baby just wrote me a letter. When she wrote me a letter, said she couldn't live without me no more. Listen, mister, can't you see I got to get back to my baby once more? Anyway, yeah, give me a ticket for an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a fast train. Lonely days are gone, I'm a going home. My baby used to
Speaking of doing a random walk along a street from one part of town to another, I also used the summertime to do a little walk around Jerry Street East as far as I could into the East End. So when I mentioned that going along Bélanger started a running theme, I did do a couple of those trips to try to show off one street to give you an idea of just how much that street can change from one area to the other, so you get a different vibe. So if you go along Jerry, it means that you would get into Villeray in the beginning, which is like your typical Montreal style housing, up until maybe Saint Michel and a bit more east, which starts to have a few more standalone homes. Then you get into St. Leonard, that if you know anything about Montreal architecture and the multiplexes, that's pretty standard there. Like your typical 3, 4, 6plexes that are in these giant brick houses. I was familiar with them because my grandparents on my dad's side used to live in one of those. And then eventually got into Anjou. Probably could have gone a little further, but it was getting late in the day. But one thing I could say was, it was nice to be able to revisit that with fresh eyes. Because I remember on Jerry Street, like years ago, I might have only done one bus ride and maybe a random trip here or there, but I had no memory of what was around there. So being able to see that again for the first time and kind of really pay attention to my surroundings, including a good stop at the Cafe Milano, which I highly recommend too, it was worth it. Oh yeah, and if you're on the South Shore and you want to know about Cafe Milano, wait until the beginning of 2026. There's a new one opening in Brossard.
Maybe you wanna give me kisses sweet, but only for one night with no repeat. And maybe you'll go away and never call, and a taste of honey's worse than none at all. Oh, girl, in that case I don't want no part. I do believe that that would only break my heart. But if you feel like loving me, then you got the notion. I second that emotion. Said, if you feel like giving me a lifetime of devotion, I second that emotion.
And while Jerry Street was explored for the first time on camera that extensively from that episode, another part that I also documented was Jean Talon Street West. I mostly know of Jean Talon East because of my previous history going around the East End, but during my summer vacation, I also decided to try the west side of Jean Talon. So we go all the way to Côte des Neiges, or Côte Saint-Luc, or Town of Mont-Royal. Like, I feel like that part of town, those could kind of intersect depending on where you are. But it pretty much goes around the Carry Boulevard, or the auto route, close to the Orange Julep stand, which I did cover before, and I'll put a card in the top right corner if you want to revisit my first major episode in Côte des Neiges, and I got to get a drink at the stand. But basically started off around there. Took a detour into Town of Mont-Royal, or Ville de Mont-Royal, for something brand new, then eventually got into Park Extension, Park X, and then finally Mile X, which is pretty much smack in the middle of Mile End, Park Extension, La Petite Patrie, so it's in the middle of nowhere. I guess you could say that. But one good thing that you could find over there is the Will's Microbrewery. So it was a way to try something brand new that had been on my radar for some time, but then also go back to familiar territory like Villeray, La Petite Patrie. Oh yeah, trying to out Cassavant for the very first time after getting a recommendation from that at the office. As I keep mentioning, no matter how many times I'm going to be trying to find something brand new to explore, I will still go back to familiar territory just because some streets are going to have a wealth of new places to discover. A little bit like Beaubien Street East, partly because of my past as a childhood, but then also at the same time, the amount of restaurants around there to the point where it feels like a home away from home. A bit like the Jean Talon Market, like Wellington Street in Verdun, Saint Laurent Boulevard, some parts of the Plateau Mont-Royal. Actually, come to think of it, I got a lot of homes away from home, but that's besides the point. I'm not here to talk about how I'm a nomad. So one of my favorite discoveries of this past year was La Belle Tonquis. And that episode I recorded in September when I was doing a trip around Laurier East in the Plateau, got myself a coffee at Ingamba, tried out Ma Brasserie for the first time since, well, on the first episode, first time since 2022, which is kind of crazy to think that it was 3 years since. Then finally checking out the La Belle Tonquis, because the decor on the outside always caught my eye. A lot of anime, comic books, whatever characters pasted on the wall. The DK barrel that's right at the front that's holding the beers and the wines they have in selection. And also the menu where it seemed like it's combining Quebecois and Cantonese, Vietnamese cuisine. So it's the only spot that I know of in the city that does cheesy ramen noodles or like a kimchi poutine. And honestly, it's become one of my favorite places to visit from time to time. I might have to get another coffee for myself because I'm running low on fuel. But sometimes that fuel helps me out because after doing a coffee, I might be crazy enough to try to do some brand new territory on foot. That's one benefit of me not owning a car, is that sometimes you're able to get a lot of exercise, but then find a new path to get into the city. And that's what I did over my summer vacation, or actually a week or so after my summer vacation when I took a trip into Verdun from Brossard on the Champlain Bridge. Which I know you probably think is kind of crazy, but it is possible to do because you do have a path for pedestrians and cyclists who want to go from one end, like from the South Shore, into the city. It's not the first time I've done these kind of trips because the Jacques Cartier Bridge that goes from Longueuil into the South Center or the Centre-Sud borough of Montreal, it's feasible. And it's a good way to see that I could get into Verdun quite easily because if you go through Highway 132, cross the bridge, go into Nuns Island, you will eventually get into Verdun. Or refilled, crisis averted. Oh, Supertramp reference for the win. But as much as I enjoyed doing all of these wanders around the city and trying to explore new ground, another one of my favorite types of episodes to do are just me sitting in the backyard, getting a little cooking done on the barbecue and kicking back with a pint and showing off my garden. But if you've been following me for years, you probably saw that my original barbecue was starting to get a little bit worn out. And this past summer, I finally got to the point that I needed to get it replaced. But luckily, I was able to find something that was very similar, if not a bit more large. My Vermont Castings Kamado egg, or less something similar to a Kamado egg, was my grill of choice. So I was able to assemble it, was able to use that for a couple of times over the last few months, and even then, I feel like that if I take better care of it and try to clean it, it's going to last me even longer than the other one. Although to be fair, a 7-8 year run, it's not a bad run with a barbecue. Some of my favorite things I put together this past summer were obviously my usual bavette, but also my Cajun salmon steaks that I did with a homemade Cajun seasoning that was pretty awesome. And I'm always going to find brand new stuff to cook, whether on the barbecue or even indoors. Because this past year I did experiment a little bit with salmon tartare after enjoying the homemade poke bowls for a little while in the past. Because I'm a guy that actually knows how to make his own beef tartare, which for you, it probably seems crazy, but the reality is when you know how to prepare it, it's not that tricky and it's very safe. Same thing with salmon and even tuna if you know which one to get. But in terms of new types of dishes I wanted to show off, one of them that I did in the last couple of months was kafteji. It's a Tunisian type of street food that you find all around, and it's pretty much just a bunch of chopped vegetables served with some egg, maybe some merguez sausages on the side, and served over bread. The longest part about that is going to be cutting up the vegetables, but then once it's done, you just throw it in the pan, you fry it up, and then it's all set to go. So it's kind of a way to show something different, like African-style cooking, to go away from my usual stuff that I cook, and in particular the Ukrainian dishes I still like to go back to from time to time, because it is in my name after all. The Wandering Yuki basically means the Wandering Ukrainian. And for a wandering Ukrainian who sometimes likes to piece together parts of his family history, like he's done before with the episode on his grandmother, which I'll put in a card in the top right corner for you if you want to watch that one. Something else I try to do is think back to memories of, or at least things that my mom, my aunts would have told me about from when they were growing up. Case in point, Belmont Park up in Cartierville in the Ahuntsic-Cartierville area. I heard many stories about that part where it used to be an old amusement park that existed from the 1920s up until the 1980s when competition with La Ronde, among other factors, forced it to close down. they had fond memories of going to there, and for a little while I knew that I would probably want to document that and visit the old site of it. And the good news is that the REM, Réseau Express Métropolitain, which is our light rail system, that expanded all the way up into the Ville Saint-Laurent borough. So it goes smack in the middle of both subway lines. So that means I'm able to go into different ground that would have been, it makes it easier for me to visit some parts of town, or even explore new ground that I've never actually been to on camera. Never mind, never been to in my life. And the good news is that the REM takes me right there to a short walk all the way to the site of the former Belmont Park. And once again, I just found that for the size park there, it's surprising just what they were able to fit back in the day. I can't even imagine a roller coaster, bumper cars, and the whole shebang would have fit on one like small surface area.
From Hank to Hendrix, I walk these streets with you. Here I am with this old guitar, doing what I do. I always expected that you would see me through. I never believed in much, but I believed in you. Can we get it together? Can we still stand side by side? Can we make it last like a musical ride?
That line of the REM also takes you further into Laval, like a very sparse area of St. Dorothy, and even into Deux Montagnes, which was the terminus of the original commuter train that we had before they were doing construction on this light rail system. So that line is basically going the same way that would have taken me if I was riding that back in the day. Now, transit fares could be kind of difficult to explain here, so I don't want to get into that. But on opening weekend for that ride, it was able to take me up to Deux Montagnes, or Two Mountains, which is like along the north shore of Montreal. So decided I was going to visit that for the first time, and considering that Saint-Eustache, nice old town, has a lot of farms there, good microbrewery in the area, that was within walking distance, and I felt since I was going to be riding there for free, why not just take advantage and try something brand new? It was a really nice trip, and I feel like I can explore even more ground as they open up some of the other lines. Like once the West Island line opens up, Saint-Anne de Bellevue, Kirkland, Pointe Claire, that could be covered in future episodes.
Oh, life is bigger. It's bigger than you, and you are not me. The links that I will go to
As is pretty obviously known, tracing my family history around the city has become one of the things I enjoy doing when I'm in the middle of my wanders around Montreal and even around the South Shore. But one thing I also try to do is visit areas that kind of to tie into my childhood when I was growing up, which is a big reason why Rosemont's become one of my favorite parts of town. And even sometimes looking back at pop culture and how things had changed in the last couple of years. That was kind of on my mind in May when I recorded what was called my 40-year walk episode. Pretty much something to coincide with me turning 40 in 2025, which kind of felt crazy to think about, because as a kid, being 40 years old felt like it was an eternity from then. And now here I am at 40, and that kid feels like he's in the distant past. And it's kind of crazy to think like what parts of pop culture, what parts of, well, entertainment in general has, bitten the dust and gone away. All those old cartoons, the very concept of Saturday morning cartoons. Try explaining that to somebody, along with trying to explain that we used to live life without the internet then. So there you have it. These are 12 episodes looking back at the past year where I thought I had a lot of fun, showed off new ground, tried out new things, but also kept things kind of familiar for me. Nice way to do a little overview, very similar to how I like doing my end of summer videos that always coincides with my anniversary on YouTube. Which, by the way, if you want to see that episode, then click a card in the top right corner. You can revisit the one I put together this past summer when I was looking at all the brand new areas of Montreal I visited. And one thing for sure is that it's never going to end. As long as there's new recipes to try out, more beers for me to find, beer cans that have such crazy marketing, I feel like, yeah, I'm so going to buy this. Restaurants, the third wave coffee shops that are plentiful around here, I'm going to have a lot of material to work from in the future. But we'll end it on this note because
they did the Monster Mash. It was a
yeah, very funny. I suppose I need to have some kind of Halloween gag to wrap things up here. So here's what I think I'm going to do. I love that Black Sabbath song as an ending, and I think I'll just leave it with a little montage, including some Halloween fun, while we get into a brand new year. So everyone, thank you for another successful year of the Wandering Cheese Cafe. So if you like what you see, you know what to do. Click that subscribe button below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy my stories, my wanders, the trivia I show, the family history I document, the food, drink that I show off, and everything that comes with it. Oh yeah, random video game references and music references, and etc. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, leave them in the comments. I'll see if I can do it. But until then, Happy New Year, and here's to a happy 2026. Take care everyone, and enjoy the ride.